In the heart of a lush African valley, surrounded by rolling hills and ancient trees, lay the village of Ndeke. Ndeke was known across the land for its people's resilience, their rich traditions, and their connection to the ancestors who watched over them. This was a place where stories were told by firelight, and the elders' words held the wisdom of countless generations. In Ndeke, people believed that the spirits of their ancestors still roamed the earth, guiding, protecting, and warning them through signs, omens, and most of all, through the drums. These were no ordinary drums. They were said to contain the voices of the elders who had passed on but remained in spirit, forever tied to the village. They were the drums of the ancestors. Hidden within a sacred grove and played only by the village's most trusted drummers, they had been created centuries ago, carved from trees blessed by the spirits of the land and stretched with the skins of beasts who willingly offered themselves to protect the village. Each beat of these drums resonated deeply, like the pulse of the earth itself, reverberating through the mountains and valleys. The village of Ndeke lived in peace, but that peace was fragile, for the people knew that the drums were also a warning system. Each drumbeat carried a message, and only the wise elders could interpret them. They beat for protection, for celebration, for mourning, but most importantly, they beat to alert the villagers of danger. One dark night, as the moon was hidden behind a thick shroud of clouds, the village was wrapped in an eerie silence. Suddenly, the silence shattered. A strange, frantic rhythm echoed through the air. The drums of the ancestors were beating wildly, louder, and faster than anyone had ever heard. The villagers awoke, heartbeats racing as they gathered near the sacred grove, seeking answers from their leader, an elder named Mbali. Mbali was a woman of age and wisdom, her hair gray like the clouds before a storm, and her eyes sharp as the hawk's. She had heard many rhythms from the drums over her lifetime, each one whispering its message into her heart. But this rhythm was strange, unlike anything she had ever known. As the villagers gathered around, Mbali raised her hands, motioning for silence, and closed her eyes, letting the beats sink into her bones. After a long pause, she spoke in a voice both firm and trembling. "The spirits of our ancestors are troubled. They warn us of something dark, a threat that looms over us, one we cannot see. We must seek guidance, for this danger is beyond our understanding." At these words, the people gasped. They had always trusted the drums, but to hear of an invisible danger struck fear into their hearts. Among them was a young man named Duma, known for his curiosity and bravery. Duma, tall and strong, with a fierce spirit, was often the first to volunteer for any village quest. Hearing Mbali's words, he stepped forward. "Elder Mbali," he said, "if there is danger, let me face it. Show me how to find it, and I will protect our people." Mbali looked at him, her eyes filled with a mixture of pride and worry. "Duma, the path you are asking for is a dangerous one. The drums speak not only of the village's protection, but also of a journey into the spirit world, where only the bravest can tread. This is not a challenge for the faint of heart, but Duma's determination shone in his eyes. "I am not afraid, Elder. I will do what it takes to protect our village." Seeing his resolve, Mbali agreed to guide him in a ritual that would allow him to enter the world of the spirits. She led him to the grove, where the drums of the ancestors were now silent, and began preparing for the journey. She ground rare herbs and scattered sacred ashes around him, chanting words in the old language, words that even Duma could not understand. As the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, Mbali struck the drums of the ancestors once more, her hands moving in a slow, powerful rhythm that seemed to reach deep into the earth. Slowly, Duma felt himself growing heavy, his senses blurring until the world around him melted away. When he opened his eyes, he found himself in a vast, misty landscape. The colors were strange, deep greens, shimmering blues, and flashes of gold that seemed to float in the air. He was no longer in Ndeke, but in a place that felt as old as time itself. Here, he was surrounded by figures cloaked in shadows, spirits of the ancestors who had long since passed from the physical world. One figure stepped forward, cloaked in brilliant light, and spoke in a voice as deep as thunder. "Duma, why do you come to the realm of the ancestors?" Duma took a deep breath, his courage unwavering. "Great ancestors, our village faces a danger that we do not understand." The drums of the ancestors beat with a warning. "I have come to seek your wisdom and guidance," the spirit nodded solemnly. "We see the threat that you do not. An evil spirit, long buried and forgotten, has awakened in the shadows of the valley. It seeks to destroy the bond between the living and the dead, to silence the drums of the ancestors forever." Duma's heart pounded as he listened, but he asked, "How can we stop it?" "What must I do?" "You must find the heart stone," the spirit replied, its voice echoing. This stone was hidden generations ago in the Cave of Echoes, where only those guided by the ancestors may enter. With the heart stone, you can shield the drums and bind the spirit to the earth once more. But beware, for the spirit is cunning. It will do all in its power to deceive you. The vision began to fade, the world of mist slipping away as the drums of the ancestors thundered back into Duma's consciousness. When he opened his eyes, he was back in the grove, Mbali watching over him. He recounted the vision to Mbali and the gathered villagers, who listened with wide eyes. They knew the Cave of Echoes, a place said to be haunted, where few dared to go. But Duma had no choice. His path was clear. Guided by Mbali's words and the chants of the village, he set out for the Cave of Echoes. As he entered its dark mouth, he heard a faint, eerie whisper calling his name. Shadows moved along the walls, dancing in the flickering light of his torch. But he pushed forward, his heart steady, determined to find the heart stone. At last, deep within the cave, he found it, a small, gleaming stone resting on a pedestal of rock, glowing with a soft, warm light. As he reached for it, a cold wind swept through the cave, and the shadows around him began to shift and take form. The spirit had followed him, its presence chilling and dark. "Do you think you can defeat me, mortal?" it hissed, a voice like the scraping of stones. "I am as old as the mountains. I am the silence of the forgotten, the darkness in every shadow." But Duma, clutching the heart stone, held his ground. He spoke the words of power the ancestors had whispered to him, calling on their strength. The spirit recoiled, its form breaking apart like smoke in the wind. With a final, desperate howl, it faded into nothingness, banished by the ancestors' might. Duma returned to the village a hero, bearing the heartstone to Mbali and the drums of the ancestors. That night, as the villagers gathered, Mbali led them in a powerful ceremony, sealing the bond between the living and the spirits anew. The drums beat in harmony once more, their rhythm steady and peaceful, their voices strong. And from that night on, the village of Ndeke flourished, guided and protected by the ancestors whose voices would always speak through the drums, reminding them that they were never truly alone.